Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and we also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
now you've heard us laugh at the idea of the MCU, but the brothers here, we are talking in defense of Brie Larson. We have seen this trailer and we have some issues, and not with Brie like the rest of the world, and not with Marvel in general, just their approach to you. When you have a successful movie, that means you do play Trinity. So let's see this trailer. Are you ready, sir?
Always ready.
All right, so let's see. There is that. You seeing it?
Yes, I am.
All right, ready, set, and we're gonna roll.
Captain Rambo? What the hell are you doing?
Entering the jump point perimeter. Gotta get you some readings, Fury. Hello? Hello?
Captain Rambo?
Is this an Avengers test?
Where's Captain Rambo?
What the? Hi.
We're looking for Kamala Khan.
Okay, so our powers are entangled. I can manipulate light energy. And I can totally show you. I'm not again. Hi. Where's our daughter? Wherever you were. We're a team. Oh, no. We're not a team. We're not a team.
The old standby, going to the Beasties for your trailer.
You mean the Beastie Boys?
Yeah, what do you say about the trailer, sir?
The trailer looks fine. Trailer looks fine. I mean, it's pretty obvious the direction they're going, but otherwise the trailer looks fine. Good. I'm gonna let you take the lead on this. We know what the elephant in the room is. Go ahead, ride that pachyderm.
My issue is, I understand if you're starting out for the surprise and you start with this and you say, hey, here's here's Monica Rambeau, right? Not in the way where we see her. Obviously, we see that she's going to be lacking in the budget as far as what they can do with her visually, right? Because she's not immediately flying out of space with no spacesuit, because she can turn herself into energy. She can be a hologram in space for a little bit of time, so she can travel around, and she travels at light speed. So by the time her body needs oxygen, she can be back home in no time. But they're not doing that so far. And then we get the wide-eyed kid. Just like we got Kamala Khan, oh wow, here's Nick. Who told her about Nick Fury? There's Avengers pamphlet that they got highlights when you go to the dentist and you read about the Avengers and Nick Fury and all of his exploits as a spy. I think they forgot that Nick Fury is the top of S.H.I.E.L.D. as an agent, so it's like a spy type of thing. But what else can I say since here, this is the thing. We're like 40 seconds in, and we barely get to see the person who brought us $1 billion movie. Now, whenever you say that, you'll say that what's the name of success? Who's that guy? Robert Downey Jr. You'll give the other success to Marvel for the Black Panther and her movie. Spider-Man, who didn't make $1 billion on his first way out. They just look past that. But anyway, not saying, hey, the next movie wrote out the Endgame. They'll be like, it's Spider-Man. But anyway, my issue is,
you've got the competing narrative, because if Captain Marvel had been lackluster or didn't make all the money, everybody see Brie Larson was the wrong choice. Makes $1 billion. Oh, that's all Robert Downey Jr. And the fact that everybody wanted to see what was going to happen in the film because of Infinity War. So there's always, when you want to hate something, there's always an answer.
Now, what is happening with Monica's outfit? Like, look at this. They give Captain Marvel the form-fitting outfit, and they went back to the, I don't even know which period this is from. Even the thing for the zipper is bulky on this outfit. It's like they just, good Lord,
well, it's not an outfit; it's a uniform, and all the uniforms have to come up to the neck. They've got to have a certain amount of padding, certain amount of, there's very little design to it. Everything is supposed to be functional, not stylish, but functional. So that's why you get what you get.
Is it functional? If we looked at Captain Marvel, and her first outfit was not functional at all.
Her outfit was horrible. But the whole idea, what were they going for? It looked all baggy and dumpy, but that's what they were going for. Like, oh, she's captain, she's out in space. So in space, they're going to have uniforms, and these are what the uniforms are going to be. No, if we're coming strictly from comics, the idea of, you could literally call them outfits. Most guys would probably call them costumes, but they were supposed to be eye-catching. They're supposed to be a bunch of eye appeal to whatever the person was wearing. So the guys would have the form-fitting stuff, but of course, like the musculature to go with it. And then look at like the outfit that they made for Phoenix, with the sash, the colors, the design. It's supposed to be eye-catching at the end of the day. But the whole idea is they don't want to make that transition from the comic to to superheroes on film. Everything's supposed to be functional, and so you get this stuff over here, which is bland as all get out.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. Come on. This is like the thing is, we can get to, I think we have it here later, but see, I could have, and I think a lot of times we say, all right, just because when we were watching, we threw out a lot of our issues when we used to watch The Incredible Hulk, saying, hey, there's some issues with here. It's like, no, this is what they can do. We're going to accept it. We're going to suspend disbelief that it's not exactly the same. Heck, I suspended disbelief for the 2 Spider-Man movies and had the web shooters outside of the outfit and the belt. It didn't matter as long as we got some kind of Spider-Man, but we're not at that stage anymore. We're at the stage where, what are they? They didn't explain it like that, but what, does Tony Stark make a Spider-Man costume that looks amazing because Tony Stark is this ego-driven person that would make that? Or is it just like, why can't they all be like the way he made the Spider-Man outfit? And that isn't an exact thing, but it looks good. That's all I'm asking. So then we have, then it looked like she just got pants and shoes on here. Like, look at this. It was really a dazzling costume that John Romita Jr. put in. I don't know if his father did the original design, but I know the first artist was John Romita Jr. They, hashed out the look. This look is close enough to her. But then, and somehow the father made it out despite his struggles. Glad you made it out, fella. And then we get Brie, right? Now, Brie has gone through the costume struggles, but here, she's back in action. Look, we got a form-fitting outfit. I can look at both of them at the same time, right? This isn't entirely Spider-Man costume, but it looks better. That's all I'm asking. Look at Monica back there. looking like she's out. It's cold out there in the summer.
Yeah. Well, I guess you got to get the second movie in order to get the better outfit. I mean, look at Brie Larson as well. She even got to get her hair done for this one. Look at that flowing hair.
Yeah.
Monica, don't worry, you'll get your day.
Brie, if they get rid of Brie, she got. I mean, she's been doing commercials, so she don't have a business. She doesn't have a life at Marvel after this. They're still looking to have her do stuff.
Where's our daughter?
Now, wait a second. Now, it's not her. I can't. Oh God, I guess it's the people blame. They don't know what happened.
Wherever you were.
All right, we got the team going. Marvel has to have the team. We got to the team stuff. When we get to, what is it? There might be, I don't know if I'm going to jump the gun. I don't know if it's the Nova stuff, but they usually had those shields. Oh, we got a little dance thing like in Kamala in Ms. Marvel. We got a dance scene in here. Wow. They really.
There's a Pakistani dance scene in outer space.
I'm glad you caught that. Aha! I'm glad you caught that. Thank you. I didn't have to say it. Ultimately, the hard part is I mentioned to you this before. It's like we look at this and we're like, wow, we're borrowing from the culture, this, that, and the other. But it's like it still feels like the Disney really like their Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior, and they keep throwing in. I think they had a dance scene in that too. But hey, I don't know. I'm gonna keep going and rambling on. I just think if I could have just so many videos that we got on Monica Rambeau on this thing. We got some complaints about Brie and our thing. We had some support on Brie on our show, but I just feel second movie, better costume, more Brie, not a sequel to the Miss Marvel TV show, which struggled in the well. While we're here, before I keep going, what do you feel about the controversy saying this is the worst trailer ever? Did you see any of that?
Yeah, I saw that. That's I mean, because initially I heard it, and so I was like, all right, let me go. And then I don't know if YouTube stops so you can't see how many dislikes it's getting.
Dislikes, yes, thank you.
All I can see are the likes. So I was like, all right. So they're saying this is the worst liked one ever, but I can't see the dislikes. So I'm seeing like 440,000 likes as opposed to like, well, how many dislikes at the end of the day? And then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at the end of the day because these guys have already invalidated most of that stuff where you can go and you can review bomb and you can just attack something and you can get large groups of bots to go over there and do it. So I'm like, okay, the bottom line will be the movie and how the movie performs. But I guess part of me is hoping that people eventually just grow up from this. We can somehow progress from the teenager stage of the internet where we don't like something and we're just gonna hate it forever and we're just gonna bomb it. Look, you don't like it, you don't like it. There's other stuff out there for you. But look, this is the most disliked movie ever. Is it an existential situation for you if this movie actually is successful? I don't think so. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Where unfortunately a lot of people are just thriving on hating something, and I'm not talking about dislike, where I don't like this or I prefer something else. I'm talking hate, HATE, the dictionary definition, where they are thriving off literally just the hatred of something, and if it succeeds, even if it fails, hey, even better. And if it's in the grave, we're gonna dig it back up and burn it, take the ashes, throw them out, urinate on the ashes. I mean, that type of mentality. So that's all I see when I see stuff of this nature. I mean, the biggest criticism that I have, and I think it's pretty obvious, is that they do seem like they look like they're gonna sideline Brie Larson, for Kamala Khan. For Kamala Khan, I can't even say Monica Rambeau, but it does look like they're gonna, they think that okay, yeah, this is good. I don't think they're wrong. She's I think she's a I think she's a good actress. Okay, she's definitely got the effervescent quality that you would want, and she's young, so you can get, you can definitely get more mileage in terms of the films. But That's the biggest criticism. Like, well, you were in a film with $1 billion. Do you get a chance to hedge your own? No, 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 not going to get that. We're going to have these other guys over here. And oh, by the way, we probably won't see you again after this film either. Hey, but thanks for the memories. And look, we gave you a better outfit. Okay.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm just talking. I just talk with friends with people somehow saying, like, it's a as far as trailers go, it's a fine trailer. But the thing that people are saying, like, Kamala Khan is kind of saving the ones that are positive and just doing the other side. We're just gonna cheer on what's the name? It's just like, well, that's what my issue is. Is saying you have these characters here. You have someone that headlined the movie. It was her movie. Sam Jackson wasn't the one here. Here's another outfit that they, just good Lord, they don't like the. Come on.
Awful, awful. Could you imagine if they did Spider-Man's outfit and it was the equivalent of what they're putting Monica Rambeau in? It would be like, what is that? That's terrible. That is just
Well, yeah. I mean that's bad. We got this wacky shoulder pad here thing. Like, look, her thing in passing looked. Now this looks terrible. And look, she's finally on tap. They got a different outfit for her, but that's fine. It could be a little brighter in color, but it's not Falcon America's sidekick here with all this nonsense that don't mean anything. Like, we need the fashion people that decide, like, all right, this is the idea. Bruce Timm was a person who understood animation, right? And he decided that when I do animation next time, I understand Alex Toth and any other animators. We had people that were great artists that didn't always design, plan, and do things. They could animate and they could do things for animation, but they didn't always think to say, I'm going to tailor my design for animation to make it quicker. And as you see, it keeps getting better and better. It's not what they're doing now, but what he was doing was simplifying and making Batman work for animation. And it became a style that became, to most of the pros, they were like, this is the real Batman right here, right? So take that sort of thinking and say, we need a Bruce Timm here that looks at the costumes and says, all right, if we look at these costumes, they are dynamic and they're fun. Why do we need to turn into Jim Lee and add all these bells and whistles and stuff? But the difference with Jim Lee is that it's drawn by Jim Lee. So some of the stuff that don't make sense, it looks good in the Jim Lee drawing. You can't always translate that because they're not human beings drawn by Jim Lee. So you can't add all the bells and whistles and arrows and different corners and lines and whatnot. Simplify it and say what worked in the original costume. Say, well, no, this costume that she has on, it was a Mardi Gras. No, that was their simple explanation of why this costume is this dynamic, and it worked for the thing. It's all okay because I got a bunch of videos talking about Monica Rambeau. Both of us, we've done some together. There's a bunch of this thing, and if they're going to give us the Dwayne McDuffie version where she was like, she was solid all the time, she had energy and she had some strength and whatnot, then that's what I felt they were doing. She had the superhero landing, but they're doing the energy stuff, and it seems like they're going to be limiting. And the other thing is that maybe the hairnet wouldn't be bad in this movie. Maybe the hairnet wouldn't be bad, but they're like, nope, we can't do that. So was there anything else here?
They also, I mean, it's more so with the female characters than the male characters, but a lot of the outfits that you see in the comics are definitely flattering to the female form. And here, they're really trying to avoid that. They don't want anything to look too gratuitous. They don't want anything to look like it's, what's the word? Exploitive. So, hey, if we can try to make this as uniform as possible, as unisex as possible, everybody gets shoulder pads, everybody gets gauntlets, this sort of stuff. Let's try to make them look like they're walking around in a trash bag if they can, because we won't have to get that criticism. Okay, that's fine. We don't want any more, hey, when, like Scarlett Johansson, when I first put that outfit on, I couldn't breathe. Yeah, and it looked damn good.
Whatever it takes. What is it? I mean, the stuff actors go through for what's the name? What was it? What was it? LL was talking about being on was it Deep Blue Sea or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
He was in the water, and they said whatever it was to keep him stable. They said time for lunch, and the person controlling it let go, went to lunch, and he just like almost drowned. These things in acting sets are like the little bit of thing of saying, hey, this is tight, I couldn't breathe, is not in comparison what could happen on a film set. Like you can share the Jaws type of war stories on this thing and saying how tight this thing felt and what's the name and this, that, and the other, and what people had to do to look like superheroes. This is part of the thing. This way you're getting the big bucks. But what about this last part here, where who is this? Oh no, they got a woman taking over for Ronan.
She's not like the new Ronan the Accuser, but she is coming out of the comics. What was that?
What?
I think it was a Conquest. All those Conquest books that came out, it was that spacefaring series. It was
from Fear Itself.
No, not Fear Itself. There was like the Super Skrull, the Guardians.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was something on the Conquest. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was all these books, and there were, it was this, this tie-in thing, but it was like this, all the spacefaring characters, and I believe her first appearance comes out of there, so she's not. Thankfully, they didn't decide, oh, you're the new Roman, and we're gonna make you a girl. Like, okay, great, you guys are still making the same mistake. She's a character in her own right.
What about this female Ronin back here, though? You see this chick back here right next to her? With the blue patch? Looks like Ronin there, too. Well, I'm pulling back, so obviously that's who this girl is. Girl power. So with that question, do we need a girl power Marvel movie after this? Since we have I'm gonna say, if anyone's watching the show, we got a 3-babe film here. Do we need to have all the babes in one film? All the Marvel babes in the film?
You're planning on doing like what, like an all-female movie, or
we did a joke about saying possibly doing that.
Oh, okay, yeah, they would. I don't think they would survive the backlash from that. I just don't.
Even though I got some issues, I'm not with the backlash. But there is the thing of it is, there is a route to the backlash. There is an idea that the audience has figured out that the audience knows, because they let out Brie, either however it was, that the issue of having to deal with having 2 co-stars in the movie, when you're just like, hey, I was in a successful movie, why can't we just bring the team back and do another one and bring more villains? That's what we do. Marvel says no, we do a second movie that after the first one's successful, we put more Avengers in there. And now every time someone says, are we the Avengers now? No, we're not the Avengers, type of deal. So they sort of saw, oh, okay, Marcus, bad stuff outside of the people they want to get rid of, like Terrence Howard and obviously maybe Brie Larson. They don't let the negative stuff get out. When they're reshoots, people just fall in line and don't say anything. If Sony has a reshoot, if Disney has DC has a reshoot, they complain and say, "Oh, it's over. This is terrible. The movie is terrible." But when Marvel lets this out, they want this stuff to get out. So the fans are reading this and they're like, "Oh, look, and we don't see her in this." That's already saying, "Hey, we don't feel that she can carry it." So we got all these other knuckleheads. So, if I say about the guys, I have to say about the girls too. So they got these couple of knuckleheads in the movie with her. Like, the fans are reading it and saying, reading the tea leaves and being like, "Hey, Dissension, she's not in there. She's like, let's say, it's a lot more Kamala Khan. So you got to split the three characters. We've seen a lot more Kamala Khan and her interacting with people, so we get her personality in this. We're not only thing we really get from Brie is that she's we're not a team type of deal. So it's like we're getting more time with Kamala. I guess the second would be obviously Brie, even though but we're getting more visual time seemingly with Monica than Brie. So that's the thing that people are seeing. So I can't fault them to being like. I can fault them for disliking the trailer because it is, trailer is fine. But the idea that they are saying, hey, Marvel's showing that they're having little interest and they're going to do the Adrian Brody thing where we try to sideline this person as much as we can in the movie. And then you come back saying, as I think you said in our last video, wow, that movie was so great. If Kamala wasn't in it, I don't know if I would have seen it. Like, you already decided that you weren't going to see another movie there's a bunch of like if you dislike Iron Man 2, you still went and saw Iron Man 3, right? So I don't know, man. I just feel that I didn't know it was going to become Marvel team up these movies. I know that this was going to be what Marvel was.
This isn't even Marvel team up.
You don't think it is?
Well, what was the
2-in-1?
Marvel team up, Marvel 2-in-1, DC Comics presents Brave and the Bold. The fixture on all of those, and I guess I'm being a real comic nerd now, but that's me. But the fixture in all of those, you had a constant, and that constant was Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, The Thing, and then you had the revolving door of other heroes who interacted with them. And it was also a great place for you to meet new characters and new villains.
Let's scratch that. Let's say this is the thing. How Power Man and Iron Fist was taking two less successful titles and put it into one title, right? So they're saying that we have one successful movie or one successful couple. We got one successful character in the solo movie, and we're gonna put what was it? Well, Captain America had a bunch of extra characters that worked for the film, but then I was like, I don't want to buy into what's that thing? Another Avengers or Avengers Light or Avengers Spotlight movie, but they seemed to, with Civil War, give us an Avengers Spotlight. Now, the Russos did a great job of directing it because you got the focus you wanted on these characters, so it felt like you had your time with them outside of Giant Man getting bowled over. The bigger they are, the harder to fall. But I don't think you need to continually do Power Man Iron Fist or Blade Trinity when you have a successful movie. They decided that they were going to go with their Midnight Suns. They're going to push Wesley Snipes down so we could have these two vampire hunters without Blade and just call it the Midnight Suns running around. And thankfully, it never happened. Now, with the fact that Blade didn't continue after that, they blame it all on Wesley. But the problem is that we came to see Blade. We did not come to see Ryan Reynolds or Jessica Biel. We came to see Blade, and then people want to complain how he was on set. I would be upset if they take my movie and decide that Goya is going to make his Midnight Suns movie. Stop it. And the hot chick wearing the headphones. Here's our iPad. See it, everybody? What are we selling here? We're selling the bill of goods. So you don't need to do that. You can have someone have a solo movie. These movies have, they always have these groups and teams.
But they haven't gotten that yet. And I mean, fortunately for us, it worked. They came out, they said, okay, we had the initial movie. I mean, if you look at Captain America is pretty much the Captain America movie. And who's the big guest stars that we have? The Howling Commandos, who, I mean, to be quite honest, that's where we should have met Nick Fury at the end of the day. But, that we got the Howling Commandos. That's pretty much it. Then we get the second movie, of course, let's introduce some people over here. We got Black Widow here, it becomes more ensemble. But by the third one, you're right, that's an Avengers Light movie. The only thing that differentiates it is that the Cap moments are really good. So we can just keep going on that way. And they're like, this is it. This is how we do it. So, we connected to the other films, which is fine. but then we can introduce these other characters, that'll keep it fresh. And then we can also, spin, we can have these guys ready to spin. And they successfully were able to do what a whole bunch of these guys love to do. They were doing backdoor pilots in every film at the end of the day, and building the whole thing up. Now, like you just said, the audience is kind of like, hey, wait a second, I see that guy behind the curtain. There's no wizard. This is just set up for the next thing. And I've said this once, and I'll say it as many times as I need to. They squandered a whole lot of time and goodwill on Phase 4 doing that nonsense, where it became, look, let's just get this guy out, get her out, get this one out, get him out, get him out, get him out. Okay, now that they're out, they're good, they're ready, and they're primed. Then we can go over, we can play with these characters. And so, where's the story? And that's where the stuff is really lacking at the end of the day. So yeah, the stuff is formulaic, and you want to see what's going to go from here, where it's going to go from here. But in terms of this particular film, look, Brie Larson didn't do herself any favors with the notoriety that she had for herself in relation to the character and to with Marvel. But you did headline $1 billion film. You're supposed to get a second shot to show and prove. And Marvel is still very much in the mode of, no, we want to come out and promote. We want to come out. We want to do the ensemble thing. We want to promote these characters, have people up and running, ready to go. And they want to do this with the heroes. And then but the villains, they kill the villains off every movie, even the ones that are good. We got to see. I mean, I think isn't it like literally a travesty that we got to see the Red Skull in one movie?
But I have to correct. Actually, the Red Skull shows up in the two Avengers movies, and he also shows up as but he's an important part of Infinity and the other. Like the idea that they gave us this, and they think that's a good button to his character, and I say and then they didn't even, if they were going to have him it doesn't make any sense. Ultimately, because the second one plays out like the Mark Grunwald story that the Red Skull has become this Aryan character, which was a Kirby idea that the Red Skull, that Hitler would be reborn and his brain put into the face of Steve Rogers. And that would be like basically, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Even as a kid, I was like, he said, Raffiano will be back with your face. And he's like pointing to Captain America. And it's like, oh, sweat, the Aryan. That's cool. And then Mark Grunwald actually did it. He played it out where he was this big government official, but they didn't have, Robert Redford, who was a decent sort of business villain, but then they all basically these, regular guys that attacking the Avengers, and the Avengers are, as you said many a time, fighting each other and struggling and bickering and all this other stuff, and saying, can we look at a movie and see the villain as the guy who, like the way you can't say the X-Men because what's the name was on there. But have the guy doing something amazing, like having them do something where you see them and you're like, that's the villain. That's the guy they need to take out in the trailer. And most of these Marvel movies, outside of Thanos, that's where they kind of did that. But now it's like, who are the villains in in Loki? Who's the villain in that? The villain is
Loki was the villain.
Oh, that's the same. But then who's the person that's going to be the head person? It's like, the TVA, and then Kang, or He Who Remains is the guy. And it's like, well, no, he's at the very, very end. Okay, then it's those 3-time guys. It's like, no, those guys are lame. They always were lame. So these thing of not even showcasing the villain to be like, hey, we don't want a schlock villain. It's like, who cares? What do you think? What was it like? Die Hard was about. That's where you get to the end where we have this person who's talking smart and all this other stuff, and then with John McClane is like, Bonds, this is just a basic robbery, like all the stuff you're saying, and all of this is a robbery, and that's the thing to go into Jack Reacher, like, because the writer was saying, are we going to do this sort of like this housing scam, this Russian mob guys in this town, and this thing, and he said, It says it in the book. The book says, he said, I'm going to stick with this. He said, the guy says, we take what there is to be taken. Like, you can have fun with your villains, but don't sit around looking at them and being like, oh, this is Marvel. They just want to kill the heroes. How lame is that? And like, what more do you need? You don't need nothing. You just need a villain that has a plan. Sorry to say the Batman thing, like, because people look at that and say, "Oh, that's terrible," but they had a lot of fun with it, having every week having a new villain that either wanted to rob, steal, kill, and/or kill Batman.
They went too far with the whole sympathetic villain thing. We're like, oh, what's the motivation? They're evil. They're evil. Okay, we're not supposed to come over. Oh, they all they want to do is kill. Yes, all Dr. Octopus wants to do is kill Spider-Man. That's it. That is his only motivation. You don't need anything else. Oh, look, he and Spider-Man knew each other. And because of that connection, Pete's torn every time he has to go fight him. Who cares? Okay, the idea is this guy is the hero. He's supposed to have bad guys to fight. Now he's not supposed to have a tragic, mentally unwell people. They're going, oh, Spider-Man, look at Spider-Man, you bully. You shouldn't be doing that with Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn? No, it was great. Norman Osborn, all he wants to do is kill Spider-Man. Or more effectively, the Green Goblin persona of him, all that guy wants to do is plague, torture, and kill Spider-Man. And it's great. That was so, I'm like, William Dafoe, that portrayal, and I was like, this was great. This is exactly what I was getting out of the comic, because you would see Norman Osborn, and he's like, oh man, Pete, please don't tell Harry. I'm so disgusted with myself, that sort of stuff. And then the Green Goblin would come over here, and Pete would be like, good grief, if not for the Spider Sense, this guy would be killing me, because I can't tell when he's going to switch up. That's where you get some good stuff at the end of the day. And the Red Skull, he's just evil. He's just evil. It's great. You don't have to worry about, are these guys going to dislike or no, you want to see him lose. And it's not enough. It's not enough that the hero is supposed to win. The audience wants to see them win. They executed that very well when they brought Thanos in there, because he was effectively the first time the Avengers lost, and it was a severe loss at the end of the day. So you do want to see them come back. But then you take most of the guys, well, I mean, not all of them, but the Red Skull, there's no way you should have killed him off in the first film. He should have been coming back to play Captain like Captain America 4. He's a great villain. He's a long-lasting villain. They just discard them at the end of the day. But they want to maximize on all the heroes. And like, well, you're gonna have too many of these guys, and you don't have enough villains. And then you turn your villains into to paper tigers. Not only do you make them paper tigers, you give everybody a flamethrower.
Well, what was it? Did you see that? Man, that's probably so buried so far now. Do you see that interview with the guy who played Crossbones?
Frank Grillo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking about, Crossbones and his history. Now he wanted to do some more stuff. And, like, he's real surprised, but, now he's moving over to DC to do things. Now,
in the comic, Crossbones is a pretty good. Crossbones is a good villain for Captain America. Even that little bit that we got in Civil War, that was still a good bit. And then it becomes, all right, Cap beat him. He's going to jail forever. We're never going to see him again.
Oh, I think he died in that. He was like a suicide bomber in what's that thing? Wasn't he?
That's right. That's right.
But
because they come over, I'm like, no, this guy's supposed to. The villains come back. It's okay for them to come back too. And because like, no, if the villains keep coming back, that just means they're going to plague the people. So what do we got to do? We got to kill these villains, like Superman did. Get rid of them so these guys can't come back.
Well, I think that's a Hollywood thing, but we would get a movie with the Joker, and then Hollywood would say, well, we got to kill this guy at the end, and that sort of thing. But we got a whole movie of the Joker terrorizing Gotham, right? Now, I'm not going to say I didn't have my issues with the movie, but it had Batman fighting the Joker. The Joker's a bad guy playing through this thing, that sort of stuff. But that was a full movie, not say the movie, the idea we get, I am Zemo. I am a guy who, my town was destroyed in this fight with the Avengers. Now I hate the Avengers type of thing. Yes, that's an okay thing for a villain, right? To decide you want some sort of, well, it's not really the best idea. That shows you're crazy. But at the same time, hook them up. Like, like the Zemo's kid, the original Zemo was bad, terrible, nothing like. So you know that this guy is nuts, but like, have the villains do something with the villains rather than sit around there and just say, well, the hook of these is it's like taking a western and you take out the guys that are terrorizing the town and you just make them into, well, we were, we have a stake in this land too. Uh-oh. And you stole the land too. Uh-oh. What we do now is like they don't, like even with the ultimately we got this, we got
Don't make the heroes the bad guys.
yeah, that's the thing. And
Make the bad guys the bad guys. It works. James Bond. He fights bad guys every movie. Every once in a while, you may bring somebody back. That's how you do it. It works out. Everything's good. But I mean, I'll say it again. You got a classic villain like the Red Skull. There is no reason for him to be ushered off stage in the first film. Like,
well,
there's no reason for it.
let's end this going back to Captain Marvel, and you decided not to make her a new superhero. You decided to make her the first event, like the first. No, Captain America's the first Avenger. It's like the first one before the team was put together, where it kind of gave him the idea to do the Avengers. Cap was already kind of the guy who inspired them, but then this is the first character that connected with Nick Fury. Then you have umpteen years of story to deal with. You got years of story to deal with. Like, that's all you got to fill those. Like, they didn't do it with Cap, and now you're not going to do it with this other Cap. Like, you don't set up all that stuff. They might as well just had her gain the powers right after what's her name. There's no heroes and whatnot, and or she falls out of the sky in the 80s, in 2000s, and she's out there saving the day type of deal. Like during the so-called blip, you have a whole blip movie. It's still done the same thing, but they wanted to tie into the past, like Wonder Woman, and that sort of thing. So, but if you do that, then you have another set of history to say we got to deal with stuff. Not saying, hey, Cap's been around for forever. We need to retire him. Like, even I think they said, what's the name? Because he was talking about, they said Chris Evans had said there's more story with Cap to do. So it's like, even if he wanted to move on to do other stuff, they're talking about him doing stuff with Cap now. So it's like you got this backstory that you created for the character, which the character didn't have. You got this whole line. What was she doing? What's she been doing in space for all this time? People come to go to these other lands and people know her? That sort of thing. Like, there's a moment, I think, in the trial of Reed Richards where the Fantastic Four run into some aliens that they never met before, and it's like, yes, we know you. We know you. We know of the Fantastic Four type of deal. Where their reputation precedes them. There's so much more to do. Not to say that they haven't done it, but I'm saying you have character, a mythology to build in this space from the 90s to now. And you're sitting around there saying, you know what? We need to get these other characters started. You're turning it into the new universe where we throw in these characters that nobody cares about yet. And they care about them in the backs of these other heroes, right? So you can get away with it. It works in a sense when you did the Black Panther and whatnot and introducing all these guys. But doing the solo movie, you did the movie, she has little to no connection to all this stuff, and it still made the billion. Thanos is not in the movie. They just hinted at the character, and it made $1 billion. So it wasn't a direct connection, like the same way. All right, Spider-Man. Was it Spider-Man 2? What is it? Away from Home or Far From Home? They just stamped, all right, Tony Stark all over, and the blip and everything they could to make sure that made $1 billion, and it made $1 billion. So that's all I'm saying. You got a mythology to build. Spider-Man's young. You got all his future to make, but you set up this character so she has some sort of mythology or some sort of history. Build that instead of saying how many characters can we do for our next series. We need some stuff for the TV show, and go to the comic books and find some stories. Well, thankfully, Rogue isn't showing up in this movie because that was going to be bad.
Well, when you decide to usher off Carol Danvers, though, you undercut that particular story. Okay, which they got a lot of mileage out of that in the comics. But the arrogance has always been that, comic books, these guys don't know how to write. They don't know how to tell any stories. What are these guys? And they got these grown people running around in these costumes and these outfits. Okay, no, when it's time to do, when it's time to bring it to the screen, we got to come over here and we've got to put some stuff together, show them how it's done. This is how it would actually happen. And of course, that's for two reasons. One, they don't want to adapt somebody else's story. They're not going to get any money for that. So no, I got to come up with as much original stuff as possible. And the other is that they really do have this this high horse approach to when it comes to the stories that resonated within comics, as if somehow this is not actual literature, that you can't produce really good stories. And some of these characters have been in constant publication for over 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for over 80 years. And you would think, hey, let me do an easy lift. Let me go over here. What's a good villain? Okay, good. Does he have a good storyline with Batman? Okay, good. Yeah, let's work with that. Now, of course, we got to do some movie stuff with it, but no, we can come right over there. Nope. They always come to it like they know better than the property that's been going strong for over 80 years. And somehow they're going to improve on the wheel.
Well, there's that, but then at the same time, they borrow so much. Like looking at the Thor series, the last two Thor movies, they borrow so much as using as their tiny bit or something that was an element from, well, no, you can't even give yourself that. They can't give themselves that credit because they're Hollywood. You're not going to take, do your end game. You're going to borrow from everything and be like, well, we fixed this, we made it better type of deal. When you're Hollywood, you're going to borrow from other movies. This is what they kind of do, which is kind of a, I think when I was in school, they call it symbolism. It's like, hey, we got Pinocchio, and the elements of Pinocchio are going to be used for Rocky 3, like that sort of thing. It's like we got some of those elements, and then they tie it in there. But Hollywood has to go further. It's like, hey, I forget Rocky's son's name. We're reading you the book of Pinocchio here to really stamp it, where they always got to sign it, where it's like, now we're just totally stealing an idea. But at the same time, it's exactly as you said, they kind of look it down on the stuff while they're picking these scenes where they're like, hey, this scene where Thor is holding up Loki and the hammer's coming back to his hand, we're going to do that scene. It's like, that was a part of a story, right? There's a whole arc where he was, Thor had this girl who was, slowly trying to enchant him. And at the same time,
Lorelai gave him the golden mead.
And at the same time, it took her forever to get this to happen. And then Loki jump started it. But at the same time, who was it? I forget who did it. It was her sister or someone else figured that, hey, let's they're gonna give more to Thor. Let's give it to let's give it to Lorelai. Now she falls in love with Loki. And then now that it only turns worse for Thor. Thor is now in the service of Loki and Lorelai, and he's like, he can't even resist her. He smacks Sif and whatnot, and he's like, he finally breaks it, but he said, her voice, I just can't. And he finally breaks it, and he's like, if you don't, he's holding Loki, if you don't turn this off now, when my hammer comes back, you're gonna lose your pretty face, Loki. And I was like, that really also felt like it was the sibling rivalry, him saying that. So obviously he said it in his voice, not mine. But that's the thing. You had this big story here. There's a bunch of stories. Him going to hell, a full long story instead of that where he gets injured, his face gets mutilated by Hela. So it's like they take that stuff, but they use it for a very tiny bit. So that's so sorry.
The thing is, though, and we get, if it was a novel, these guys would be taking the task for not adhering as closely to the novel as possible. That's the Harry Potter films, Lord of the Rings, no, we're going to follow the structure that we have right over here. And with the comics, they're like, well, no, we'll just take the characters. We need some villains in here. We need some people. We could do that type of stuff. And then we're going to make them work the way that we want them to work. And no, it's just it's so discordant with what you should be doing. If you have a fully original character, hey, by all means, go to town with it. But you got these guys and they're established. No, people who are coming in there, and the reason why these guys are established is because they've already had several, if not hundreds, of stories that have resonated with readers over a number of generations.
Well, and when people say, "Well, this is a comic book, we got to have somehow expand it to a movie," right? Now, these guys on YouTube, they've taken they've done a bunch of things. They've taken some comic books and they translated it to like a pseudo animation. It's done possibly better than the animation of the comic books back in the day. But it took like Burns' series when he goes into the effort go to the negative zone, and they translated that into animation, right? Like they just use the comic panels and just kind of pan slates and kind of clean up the dialogue so there's no dialogue there. It's just the characters interacting with each other. Now each of these time out to like 20 to 25 minutes, right? So, and that's taking out the thought balloons, right? So they don't have any of the thoughts going on. They just kind of go through, or if it's thoughts, they're kind of talking. If they're by themselves, they're kind of talking to themselves, type of thing. You take that, which is like 5 issues. You take those 5 issues and you compile, or was it 5 or 6 issues? Compile it. That's well more meat than a movie, right? That's you put all that together. You got a decent story which you can trim, do that, and do a story. So this thing, in most classic comic book stories, and I can exclude the Coming of Galactus because that was like Kirby and Lee and Kirby was running so fast they kind of pushed. They like it's mid story. They go from the Inhumans to Galactus. So yeah, there's gonna be some translating. But when it got to some point, they do 3-issue stories, 4-issue stories, which amounts to it could be quicker in your speed of reading. It's like content-wise, it's like 20 minutes of stuff. You compile that together. Simonson's stuff was like 4-issue arcs, a 13-issue arc story. You compile that into a movie that might be 3 or 4 tales, But that's the thing where it's like you decide, look at the Marvel comics, and you kind of say there's not enough there, but you're cherry picking. Hey, I want to use that. I want to use the execution of shooting bullets. I love the framework of Thor as a frog, but I'm not going to use that story. I'm going to have him go through that same arc. And it's just like, well, just use that stuff. Make it animated. It would work as a great animated thing. But all to say the same thing you said very more succinctly is that, you could just use the comic books rather than what you guys been doing, like ashamed of it, using bits of it, making fun of those bits, and then throwing in your own terrible bits in there. So,
Well, anything else?
we are. That is it. We're about to close the show out. Spin a rack.
We're out.